Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are here continuing this important conversation on the clash of generations in a dialogue between two generations on the current stage. We would like to explore the so-called generational gap, which brings different expectations and life experiences to 5 different generations in today's workforce. We'll focus in particular on the role of higher education in addressing cross-generational challenges brought by our rapidly changing world and how to better prepare our youth for these challenges. We have with us Professor Tony Chan, an educator, preeminent mathematician and a computer scientist, and a leader of several institutions worldwide. University of California, Los Angeles as the Dean of Physical Sciences, Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, where he served as the president for almost a decade, and at King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, KAUST, where he's the current president. Welcome, Professor Tan.
Thank you.
I'm Iman Al-Haji, a doctoral student at King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, and the founder of Saudi Youth for Sustainability. Let me begin by inviting you to take us through your educational journey as an undergrad and a grad student in the United States, educated almost half a century ago. Tell us specifically about your generation's education from your own experience and how the skills you learned served you well or not throughout your career.
Well, thank you very much. I think I represent the oldest of the generation that was referred to, and you represent the youngest one. So let me give you a sense of the perspective that when I was your age as a student, what the world was like. So I was a student of computer science, first of all, in the 1970s, when there was no really personal computers or smartphones or anything like that. We just sent a man to the moon as a civilization. So I think the feeling was that anything is possible. So the focus in the field was, let's define what the field is. Let's define what the future is. So there was relatively little on about that the world is overpopulated, that the resources are limited. I remember when I was a student, I was reading a book by Paul Ehrlich. I think it's called The Population Bomb. And it struck, I still remember it today. But obviously it didn't catch on in terms of getting people's attention. So today is very different. I think today the generation of the younger generation is very well aware that if we don't pay attention to sustainability and so on, that you don't have a world to live in that you would like to have. So I think that is the biggest difference. So not to make any excuses for our generation, okay? I think our generation has made some great contributions. The thing you're looking today, the technology, all this stuff were like science fiction back then. So, but as we're doing that, we got to be aware of the limited resources and so on. So maybe this is one of the sources of the clash of the generations.
Indeed, President Tony, thanks for all the amazing technologies your generation brought to our generation. Let me be provocative. The global leaders and decision makers today in government, universities, private sector are the students of your generation. To what extent do you think the crisis that we're facing today in terms of climate change, pollution, biodiversity loss were part of the reflection as a failure of your educational system?
Yeah, I think the education system is conservative, has been, is one of the slowest changing institutions in our society. Again, when I was a student, we were focused on our career. We were focused on what discipline we want to study or major in. Mm-hmm. I think the generation today is more focused on the global problems. And how do we deal with poverty? How do we deal with sustainability, world peace? And then you look at what knowledge you need to get in order to solve those problems. So it's a very different mindset. If you look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, I'm wearing the pin. I don't think we have made much progress in any one of the 17. So in a way, we're all responsible. But I think my generation perhaps is not brought up with this mindset in mind. But you cannot make a sweeping statement. There are many people who really believe that we have to deal with this.
As you said, we see a generational gap in environmental sustainability, especially with the younger people. We see so many young people in the front lines challenging adults to do faster and better. How could educational system help bridge the gap and reduce the tension between youth and our decision makers in the area of environmental sustainability? How we could bridge that gap?
Well, there are many things that we can do. One is to encourage active participation by all generations. And that's really, you are the leader of our KAUST Student for Sustainability. And you organize events, and the administration supports it. And when you do this, you include people from all generations. So when you're organizing this, it just leads naturally to communication and understanding. So I think that's really a good example. I remember a year ago, almost exactly the same time, Saudi Arabia announced the Saudi Green Initiative. And there were many students who were part of that. And I'm very happy to see that. I remember you were there yourself, right? So I think that's the kind of proactive action that we all need to do. Get the young generation involved and get all the generation involved, in this activities.
Do you think we're doing enough, or do we need more?
We need more. We need to do a lot more.
Let's go beyond environmental sustainability. There is another element of the so-called generation gap, which is the difference in values and attitudes in the workplace. President Tony, based on your extensive experience, what would you change in the higher education system to help ensure the multiple generations talk to each other in the workplace and corporations and beyond?
I already mentioned the case of sustainability, right, that we talk. But beyond that, I think in all the activity that we do, certainly in a university, I think the key is diversity. So diversity will include generation, right? The diversity of generation, diversity of different background. And so when we consider any activity, by the way, not just university, the private corporation, government, make sure you involve the participation of all these people with different diverse background. And once you have that, the dialogue, the communication, and then the collaboration will happen naturally. And that's the only way to go. I'll give you one example at KAUST. We have something called the Winter Enrichment Program. So it is out of the curriculum, extra curriculum, 2 weeks in the summer, in the winter, in January. We bring in people, not in the technical area. We bring in Nobel laureates, people who are interested in different problems, who require our students to participate. So here in these things, we have professors sitting there, students sitting there, staff members sitting there. It's not a course, there's no credit, right, in that sense. So that it promotes the kind of intergenerational exchange and understanding. So I think every organization should do that more.
We know that the world is changing very rapidly, and we see that during the Winter Enrichment Program, we pick a theme and we explore how our world is changing. And you, as a computer scientist, you would easily recognize that one major revolution that has taken place between my generation and your generation is the digital revolution. We talk about digital economy, smarter cities, smart health, Internet of Things, high-speed communications have changed our lives. How should educational system use these technologies to improve learning? And second, prepare students for the smart and cognitive future they will live and work in?
Yeah, I think your first question is a little easier to answer. So we should take advantage of this new technology to improve education, from online to more personalized education. Because now we have data on how each student learns, so therefore we can improve and tailor-make the program. I think your second question is more far-reaching. You know, in a way, nobody has the crystal ball. When I was a student, all this stuff we're using, the iPhone is like a science fiction. And there will be something like that for your generation. 20 years from now, you will have to be, embrace this new technology. So I think for the student, you worry about whether these new technology will take out your job. Maybe you don't, they don't need your skills anymore. But I want to remind everyone there's a Chinese saying. When you say crisis, it's made of two words. The first word is danger. The second word is opportunities. So you should focus on the opportunity. Adapt to it. Have your own crystal ball. Set yourself prepared so that when these new trends comes up, you'll be the first to grab it.
That's very, very interesting. To invite your concluding remarks, President Toonie, let me pose a hypothetical question to you. What if a 20-year-old Toonie Chan approaches you and asks you for advice on how to live and study and work in the coming years? What would you tell him?
I get asked that question a lot. So, I can only give some general comment. So first of all, you should get to know yourself first. You have to know what you're good at, what you're not interested in, what you're passionate about. Because if you don't have those, no matter what you try, you're not going to be good at it. That's number one. Second is to keep a broad perspective. Be curious. You know something that you don't know anything about, you go learn about it. You talk to people. Because it's through this osmosis, slow learning, that you prepare yourself best for the new future. And you'll be the first ahead of others to actually grab it. I think that's the best way to prepare for the future. Not to learn everything you know now, because what you learn today is not obsolete in a few years.
With these wonderful remarks, we conclude our dialogue. Thank you so much, President Toonie, for this engaging conversation. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.